Go for Leadership, the podcast with Daniel and Gert.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today in the Go for Leadership podcast, my guest today is Markus Feller.
Go for Leadership interviews.
Markus, hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Markus, like always, it would be great to have a quick introduction of yourself for the audience.
Yes, happy to do that. I have a family, 4 girls, 6 chickens, a dog, and a rabbit. And professionally, I worked for more than 20 years in the financial services industry for the largest credit card provider in Switzerland. And then I was gracious enough to quit and said, hey, I want something new. And I joined hospitality in January 2020, just before COVID hit. And there even in the credit card area, I basically always did innovation and transformation. I did a lot of stuff by myself, managed projects, but then basically also built up open innovation. And I think in that context, I think what will be, very interesting. Also had the chance to lead the agile transformation from Swisscard. Not just from a pure delivery point of view, but I think also from a culture point of view. I think that there's some very, very nice learnings in there where we made some impact. And then here at SV Group, it's the largest hospitality provider in the DACH region. I'm responsible for innovation and transformation up until end of, I think was December. What I'm now doing is basically, I'm heading up a venture that basically we built a piece of software. Basically, it's a digital hospitality platform for one of our new brands, hotel brands. And then we realized throughout the process, this thing is so good, let's sell it to other hotels as well. And we basically will found that company, hopefully. And we're already actually offering that service to or that product to other hotels as well. So that will be now my next venture, or my next phase.
Awesome. I mean, as you said, there's a lot of culture, a lot of transformation in it. And I think in particular, due to make a transformation successful, you need good leadership. So my next question would be really, Markus, how would you define leadership, or what does leadership mean to you?
I think it's a very broad topic, but at the end of the day, as a leader, leaders are not defined by hierarchy. I think everyone is and should be a leader. And I think if I look back, for me, what was always essential is that you create the space, you create the environment where people can excel, where people can feel safe, where people actually can be vulnerable. And that at the end of the day, what you achieve by that is that you create very, very strong teams. And I think as a leader, I think it's really to create these environments, to put trust into your people, and to actually make this happen. And I was fortunate enough to do this several times. I also failed, but I've learned, I think for me that these are the essential pieces of leadership. And again, leadership is not defined by hierarchy.
I like that, because it goes into the very profound definition that I would say what leadership really means. Now, as you said, transformation has been one continuous path throughout your journey, or professional journey. Maybe you can give us a glimpse of what has been transformation that you have led successfully, and what has been the key success indicators or the key factors why they have been succeeded. Or even maybe they have failed, and you can give us some learnings out of your failure.
Sure, maybe I can give you sort of two examples. One is sort of more from a cultural perspective, and then the other one is more sort of from an innovation perspective. And I think that also relates to my basically 2 employers, one former employer, Swisscard, leading credit card company. There I would like to elaborate a bit on the culture side of things. And then I think on the innovation side of things, I would actually then go to SV Group, if this is all right. Now, on the culture side of things, I think what when I was asked to take over the whole agile delivery and transformation program at Swisscard, we were at the point where basically we said, or our CEO said three years back, we do agile. So what we did is we implemented a framework. It doesn't really matter which framework, but we implemented the framework. And then at the beginning, like doing agile, it was all great. We had transparency, never seen it before. We had processes, all great, but 3 months down the line, everyone was frustrated because we didn't innovate in a faster pace. Collaboration, now not just in one area, but overall, between business and IT was not really where it was supposed to be. And basically, we were confronted with the situation where basically said that the executive said, agile doesn't work. And then also the guys, who actually were doing it, they said, it doesn't work. And the business said, well, what should I do with this? So lose, lose, lose. And what was very interesting to me then, is when I just came into the picture, and I was sort of like not really involved into the whole process back then. And the first thing, as I basically, I had a lot of conversations with people and asked them, and I think that's one of the key. I didn't mention it before with leadership, but really listen, not just like, listening to someone and then I think you already have something on your mind and you already try to answer that, but really listen to the system, to understand what is going on, and then I think what we came up with is was really interesting. We really looked at, well, how can we make this work? Make this work for the company. And at the end of the day, what this means is to actually to make our customers happy and to create bottom line impact. And what we did is, I think it had to do just with buy-in, from top management, obviously, that they understood on the business side of things that, hey, we have now a chance of really working closer together, bringing IT and business closer together, and then to be faster and actually create more impact at the end of the day. And I think what we actually managed there from a sort of a triple lose situation, we basically went to a triple gain or benefit situation, where, and it was not everything was perfect by far, but I think what happened is because people started right from the top, started taking ownership, and not everyone at the same time. There were still people skeptical, said, we tried this now for 4 years and it didn't work. Why should it work now? But we have, and that's always the same. That's sort of when the transformation fire starts, really starts catching on, then you realize you need one or two guys, not more, one or two guys who basically want to come with you on that journey. Not because you actually convince them, but because you've created that sort of like, they're convinced themselves, they actually want to try this out. And this is exactly what happened. We had one or two executives there that said, hey, I think let's try that. What then happened is they brought in their best people from the business side. And on the IT side, all of a sudden, hey, great, the business is actually interested in that. And then we brought it to a situation where basically we no longer discuss business and IT. It was just basically a team, our first team, a combination of business and IT, who took responsibility of a specific topic in the area. And guess what? It worked. Not from the beginning, but it worked. And when something starts working, all the guys who have been telling you, hey, this is crap, it will never work, all of a sudden they wanted to. Mm-hmm. So, and that was, for me, a very nice, I haven't done it before, I think I've always loved to work with people, to see how can you create these environments. But I have not done this at that scale. We're talking about 200 people organized in nine agile teams. It's corporate. So it's for me it was big,
Mm.
and it was a very nice, and you didn't really know where that journey will go, because at the end of the day, you're just like one of them, and and I think for me it was a very nice experience to see when you listen to people. That's one thing, and then people want to see actions. You can talk and present something, but as long as people don't see stuff happening, and that also has a lot to do, I didn't mention this before, with leadership. I think people not only want you to listen to them, but also they want to see you guys get your hands dirty, help them, And I think for me, that was like throughout all the stuff I did, I've done so much on innovation, on transformation. It's always that if listen and actually helping and generally helping, then stuff starts happening, And I think for me, that was personally very, very fulfilling to see that thing grows, And then I think people are getting excited, and then results. At the end of the day, we were able to actually deliver features for our customers in 12 weeks. Boom, here it is, And this is sort of that for me, that's from a culture aspect, I think that was for me amazing to see that. And again, not everything was perfect. We had our struggles, but we had the courage to do it and to actually go down that way. So that's sort of from a pure culture transformation point. And yes, we did delivery and impact. Yeah, sometimes we failed, but I think that for me, that was sort of like a very, very good experience. If I then take it over into sort of the innovation bit, and also my network, they said, hey, Markus, are you crazy? You've been now in 20 years innovation, you've done some great stuff, some other great stuff as well, but maybe your stuff that didn't just really work. But why do you quit? Why do you quit your job? You've led that agile delivery thing. Now you've did that open innovation. What's wrong? Why do you leave Swisscard? And then when they realized I'm joining hospitality, they said, hey, are you nuts? I mean, they earn a fraction. The margin is so low. Anyway, so and I think that was sort of. But I just wanted a change. And I knew if I don't quit myself, the change will not happen, because what usually happens, or what happened to me in my journey, I was able or fortunate enough to create my next step, and then I was able to do it, so that I quit, and then I went over to SV Group. Now, initially when they approached me and asked me if I would want to join them, my first reaction was, what the hell? I mean, I'm in innovation, I'm in transformation. I always ate in that canteen of that company. What can I do there? And then also thought about, people challenged me and said, hey, yes, Markus, you've been with that company for Swisscard, the credit card company, for 20 years. Of course, you know how the company works. And of course, you know how to do this, And they said, well, look, now you're going to join a different industry. And it's going to be tough. I think when I joined SV Group, I asked myself often, can I just create the same impact that I did with the credit card company that I worked 20 years, or where I worked 20 years. And I think now it's basically it was a different topic. I think SV Group is more than 100 years old. So a very traditional company, and I think. I came here because I was fascinated by the dynamic, by the emotional connection. You can eat it, you can eat these products, you can actually sleep there. And if you love innovation, this is great. Also to explain this to my 4 girls, I think it's so easy. Take them to a restaurant, to a hotel. So, and I think what we've then decided is that we actually want to be much more, because you have such great products. It's so close to the end consumer. Let's really start using these user-centric innovation approaches with lean startup and design thinking. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone says we do user-centric innovation, we do design thinking. But if you then actually look what happens to the products, to the services, what do guests or clients really get and feel from that? In my experience, it's a lot of innovation theater, So, and I think because I'm a guy who really is practical, pragmatic, and really wants to make an impact, I think, and that was sort of the other story about, not the culture change. Yes, it has to do with culture as well, but I think so on the innovation side of things. So how do we do this now? How do we actually introduce? And SV tried this before, but not to that extent. And it was not just all about myself. We had some other great people who actually joined almost at the same time, brought in total different views. I was totally new to the industry. I didn't understand the industry. I was coming from financial services. But the interesting bit was because these products and services are so tangible, I think we were able again, and that's so crucial when you do transformation, or when you actually are on a journey with people, you do it together. You really, yes, as I said with the other example, you look for the guys who are ready. Don't try to get the guys into boat who are not ready. You're wasting your time, but you need to find the guys who are ready, who actually want to come with you on that journey, who want to contribute. And it was the same thing here again, because I did all these learnings. I think it was just, and I love to work with people. I think it was sort of became just more natural. And I think what sort of one of the very good experiences, we had then COVID hit, and all of a sudden, our main business is doing catering and restaurants for big companies. And all of a sudden, that business is gone. It's gone, from 1 minute to the next. So people don't no longer actually come to you. So you have to go with the food to them. And that's when we started developing. And we probably should have done this before, but it doesn't matter. I think we've learned, and very quickly we actually started exploring with delivery, with food delivery. And that was, the one example I had is when we did one of these projects again together with the business. At the end of the session, we did our personas and our journey and all that great stuff. At the end of the day, the people from the business came to me and said, "Markus, this is actually great. I'm going to use this in my daily business because I have a restaurant, and I can actually think about, well, what are my key personas there? What are their pains? What are their gains? Doesn't need to be a high-fi project, And for me, that was so nice to see that. And that's when transformation starts, It's not because Markus from innovation and transformation, and it's the guys in the business. Can also be IT, doesn't really matter, And they realize, hey, this makes sense. I can create better experiences for my guests or for my clients, And they start, first of all, talking about it. That's what I've experienced also at Swisscard. We did this we iterated it in 10 weeks cycles, and after 10 weeks we showed what we have done, because we've promised something at the beginning of these 10 weeks. We set all the priorities for that. We've aligned in the entire company, and then we demoed. And when we demoed, and I then get back to SV Group, but when we demoed, it was the guys who had the biggest benefit. It was the call center agent who basically, in front of 80 to 90 people, some of them senior, but doesn't really matter hierarchy-wise, call center agent, he stood there, said, hey, look, I can now serve my clients not in 1 minute, I can serve them in 50 seconds or in half a minute. And then there was a developer back there and then navigate and show it in the system. That's how you do it. You let the people speak who basically benefit the most of it. And that creates immense, ownership. It makes people proud, and you give people audience, stages.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that stage, let the people talk about who did the work and who actually benefit from it. Now we're coming back to SV, the example I just said, guy from the business came to me and said, hey, this is actually really great. And then they actually started using it themselves. Not with me, they maybe just came to me and said, hey, can you just help me with this? And I think that was sort of a really nice example, to see how the business really comes into that, starts using it, starts talking about it. obviously also they challenge, and it's not everyone, but I think that's for me sort of like how a 100-year-old company, being in the middle of the biggest crisis, starts adapting and using sort of user-centric innovation. It's really for me, it was really nice to see, and obviously it speaks for the culture as well. And that was just one example, and I think something that where I'm also quite proud of is the journey we did with we've opened a total new hotel brand in the midst of the crisis, and that takes guts, but we did it. And that hotel, for the guys who are interested in it, Stay Cook, maybe you can share it afterwards. I think it's really, sure. It excels in an on-site experience. It's a long stay concept in a digital experience. So these two parts. And the digital experience, you can book it, you get there, you enter, you stay there, you leave. You can do it all digital. Not everyone likes that, but you can all do it digital. And we did that because we said we're going to operate that hotel, and we have a pipeline of further hotels coming down the line. We said we actually want that hotel can be operated 62 rooms with 2.4 FTEs. Wow. So if you set that challenge, then you really need to think, how do I digitize? Not just because I digitize, I think all processes in, all processes out, but just maybe with the system, you really need to do it in a smart way, And on top of that, we said the 2.4 FTEs, which are on site, we call them hosts. They should not do paperwork and do all that admin stuff. They should take care of the guests. So, and then I think yet another very good example, when it comes to transformation, how you do then these things, then you really need to think out of the box. And that's what we did. We looked at startups. We actually assembled a bunch of startups who then did these processes for us. We also then further down the line, we realized, well, we maybe need to change that because these startups run business critical processes for us, like door access or booking. Maybe you actually either should do this yourself, and that's what we also then did, and we developed the whole platform for that. And then I think what we then realized, and it was not a strategy, it was not a game plan, it just happened, and yeah, that the company allowed for that. What we then realized that I think we won awards with this hotel. I think people thought this actually great. We realized that a lot of hotels have the same issues, and there's not really a good solution out there. So we actually took it to the next level, and they said, "Oh, why don't we actually use this? Why don't we offer that tech part, that digital hospitality platform, as a software as a service?" And that's now what we're doing. So the other example I use, where a business starts seeing it, they actually used it, and what I'm telling now is sort of that becoming sort of from an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, basically realizing the opportunities that are there. I think the market actually demands something. I have it, I can actually give it, and then actually go down that route, and we're now at the point where we not only have an award-winning hotel running on that platform for more than 1.5 years. So we're not just a pure tech startup. We actually have done it ourselves. We felt the pain, we've done it. And we actually now have our first clients running, not SV Group hotels, but just other hotels that we've sold the solution and they actually use it. And that makes me proud, not because of me, and I've basically done this with an amazing team, but just to see that that is actually possible in the midst of the biggest crisis. And there, I think, then the whole culture thing becomes really, really important, And at the end of the day, I think there's sort of three factors, why this actually happened. First of all, because we not try to do everything ourselves, because we really look, who do we need to partner with, software-wise, but also non-software-wise, also outside of your industry. I think we use stuff that basically not software that actually is done for the hospitality side, especially in the customer service side of things. And then I think you also there we had on an ongoing basis interactions with our potential clients, guests. You iterate in a very fast way, so you learn. And I think that the most important bit, I think, is the team. How do you assemble these teams, you know? And I can tell you now from that example, that digital hospitality platform thing, we have one guy, he's been there, Birk, for more than 20 years in IT hospitality. He knows that stuff in and out, you know, he knows the old world, he knows the new world, he can really know how to connect that. Then we have a guy who actually does not come from hospitality. He worked for Thea Media, like basically in the e-commerce space, you know, always very user-centric, very e-com centric. And then myself, who basically, again, not coming from the hospitality, but knows how to actually, I think, have a good feel for how do you assemble these teams, how do you create these environments, likes to negotiate. And I think this, and then yes, we had a development team as well who actually developed the product, you know, the tech stuff. But again, for me, you know, creating these teams, and at the beginning, it was a clash, you know, because I think it doesn't just work right from the beginning. But then I think what was interesting, you know, as we moved along, and the stuff was coming together. And we actually saw that this thing is really good, and especially now that we can actually even bring it to market to other hotels. I think right now we have really, I know it's an often used term, high performing team, but actually that's what we have, you know, because there's so much trust, you know, there's so much trust, and basically people feel that they can be really vulnerable. And I think it's amazing that the impact you can create. And for me, that's sort of the other example, you know, when you actually innovate. And again, yes, it has culture aspects in it, but for me, it's a very, very nice story, which is real. Where it will end, we don't know, but it is real. And I think it just shows, you know, what is possible if you have the courage, and if you also allow, you know, people to move in a certain direction.
Markus, what would be very interesting for me is because I was asked recently to give some direction for the cruising ship industry, which was also very painful. And I was thinking a little bit with those executives, which are mainly, it's a family-owned business in many cases. So, and they have run that for generations, the same routes, the same ships, the same, let's say, services all around. Maybe here and there, some other credit cards that has been accepted, or maybe here some more online sophisticated or booking systems. But at the end, the same hard product and the same soft product. So do you think that crisis was an accelerator, or even the crisis was the possibility for you to make a wake-up call and to move all the people from all different hierarchies until the owner or the CEOs to really make that move, that risky move, to really go into maybe like you said, a completely more or less autonomous hotel service, or to invest in this difficult times into the hotellery business?
I think it has that specific on the digital hospitality side of things. No, that was planned already. So
Okay.
COVID didn't play a big role in there. I think it was just an accelerator. You know, I think our product became even stronger, you know, through that. But that was, I think, our hotel guys, very smart guys. You know, they know the market. They saw the need for long stay a long time ago, 3-4 years ago, because brick and mortar takes a bit longer than software. So you need to get ahead. And I think that, and I think what really speaks to itself culture-wise is that the company still has the courage to go ahead and to actually launch. We even launched, I think, 2 months early, you know, in the midst of the crisis, you know. So I think that was not really, I think, something that we've planned. And I think what speaks for ourselves is basically that we stuck to our plans. Mm-hmm. And I think then, you know, if I look at the occupancy rate, you know, I think a lot of hotels struggled. We had a very high occupancy, you know. Now it's even, I think, at 100%, you know. So I think what I think definitely accelerated is the other example that I said, that food delivery thing. because all of a sudden, I think you have these rules coming into place, and they don't give you 6 months to adapt. It's from basically it's Wednesday and it's Monday. Boom, it's here, canteens are closed. So I think that definitely put us into, at some point, it put us under pressure, to really think what you can do there. And that definitely, I think that accelerated a lot in that space, where probably previously without the crisis probably would have taken a bit longer to get stuff then done and implemented. And I think that for me that was an accelerator, because the situation went from yesterday to tomorrow, and it was completely different, and you just need to think through what can you actually do.
Perfect. Maybe one question I'm also very interested in your opinion is, you said that it's very important to create space for a creative space, of course, that also leads to failures, and that you need to have a level of trust and also allow to be vulnerable. And I think what would be very interesting would be to see and to learn from you, how do you create such environments? How do you create, even though there's high pressure on a product or on a lounge or on an opening of a hotel? So how do you create that level of trust and space for such innovation?
I think it first, maybe it sounds a bit too generic, but I think that's my experience, It starts with yourself. It starts with yourself and how you behave, how people basically, notice you, how you react in certain situations. Do you show vulnerability? Basically, and I think that's at Swisscar, but also at the SV, I think just how you perceived. And I think if I think you had Michael in your interview, and I think what Michael said, and Michael left quite a big dent in a positive way, on how I thought about things. But he said once in one of the, I think it was the first course that I took with him, he said, you can only change one person, that's you. You cannot change anyone else. And I think that got me thinking, and I think he also, in another podcast, someone asked him, Mark, what is your playbook? Yeah, similar question that you asked. I said, well, do I really have a playbook? I definitely haven't written it down, but I think what definitely helps is how you appear, because people will mirror, not everyone, but people will mirror. And I think what very, very interesting bit is what I said before is really listen. Really listen, and I can tell you, I have 5 wives at home, and I know what it means. I know what it means to listen. Or they always tell me, hey, you don't listen, No, but now seriously, I mean, now if you don't, and again, it sounds so stock standard and so easy, but how many times are you in a conversation? You're sitting opposite of someone, and you already start thinking, oh, what should I reply to that? To really pay attention to what they're telling you. It doesn't always work, but I think for me that's the second big element. And also, just to the whole thing about trusting people, also to not only to go back to people and give them a pat on the back and say, hey, this was actually great. Also discuss stuff that wasn't so great. Where people can actually learn. And so in my experience, I've led for the last 25 years, people who really approach you and basically give you good feedback, and good feedback, not in the sense of this was all great, but say, hey, you know what, I don't know, you screwed this up, or, I didn't really like that. There's very few people, I think, and who are these people? These are the people who've built strong trust, who actually feel safe to approach you and to discuss this with you, because, and I think it's really has just a lot to do just how you are, and what you represent. And then I think also that people see you, not only just trying to manage this on a meta level. So really to actually get involved, and then give you an example, when I think you have a team and that team is somehow stuck because they don't. I had that quite often. They had they want to bring in these external resources, and then we had issues with, for whatever reason, with the provider or with the legal guys, and then just take this on board and then basically say, take these people along, but really get that stuff done. That's what people will measure you, and then it's not just this guy tries to manage, but he really or she really helps. And I think for me, that's sort of really and it doesn't matter what it is, Is it a contract that needs resolving? Is it stakeholders who need alignment? Is it a process that needs to be written? And you cannot do this all the time because you have other things that need to be done as well. But there are times where you need to set priorities. And if people then actually see that you're committed, that you actually help them, or not help them, basically help for the bigger purpose, then this creates acceptance, this creates trust, and then people also will approach you. And then I'm convinced about that, because then it's when I left Swisscard, it was funny. I had a great boss there, and then he did sort of in the farewell speech. He just spoke for 5 minutes, but then he stopped, and then he said it was a crowd about 80 to 90 people. So now let's tell me what do you think about Markus. It was great, And then there was, just to give you an example, and then there was one guy, I think he was in the IT. I was basically had 2 or 3 interactions with him, but what he said is, and I was very surprised, whenever I needed Markus, he listened and he was there and he helped. It was, and for me, it sounds so simple, so logical, but I think it just makes sense, and I think, that's how I think I was able to make an impact at Swisscard. That's how I was able to make, or try to make, an impact at SV. I think these are sort of the things that work for me, but also for when I talk to people,
Awesome, Markus. And like always, I'm very interested. What would be the advice you would give the younger Markus? So no, you are already in the mid of your journey, but sometimes it's very interesting to see or to know what advice would you have given the younger Markus when he started his journey.
Be patient. Now, be patient, because I love innovation. I love traction. I love speed. But when it comes to people, and obviously it's also probably just with life experience. They don't teach you this as an MBA or somewhere else. I think it's life experience, failure. But I think one thing that when I think on what I do today and how maybe I did it 20 years ago or 15 years ago, it's patient.
Go for Leadership, the podcast with Daniel and Gert.
I love that. What a great ending word. Markus, thank you so much for being our guest today. Very great insights and a lot of learnings today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel.
Go for Leadership, the podcast.